Our next speaker needs no introduction. The director of the Blueberry Commission, as well as the, I always miss this up, Washington, the Research Commission on Pesticide Registration.
No.
I messed it up again. Look at that. He's going to get me right, though.
Washington State Commission on Pesticide
There we go.
Registration.
Washington State Commission on Pesticide Registration. Alan Schreiber, please help me in welcoming Alan.
All right. Okay. All right. I hate to have to follow Tobin Peaver. I mean, he's a real plant pathologist. I play one, but that guy just, I don't know if you guys understood that, but we're screwed when it comes to disease control. We've been using Elevate, Pristine, and Switch, and we have widespread resistance. Basically, every place we're looking to in blueberry, blackberry, strawberry, and raspberry. And the ones that don't have it are some organic fields or low input fields. What I wished he could have done was on those ones that were like low input or the ones with the resistance, if he were to put yield with those. And I have a feeling that the price that people are paying for high yields are resistance. You don't have resistance, you probably have low yields. But we're concerned about that. Tobin is kind of, he's the science guy, the biology guy. I am the guy that's going to try and come in and clean up and fix this problem. I can't do my work without Tobin. And so we know that there's a problem, and my job is to try and fix this. So we did a research project for the Blueberry Commission. We're looked at Mummyberry and Boatritis. We're trying to find new products. We also are trying to put together programs that will control Mummyberry with some of our existing products. So we're trying to do work to get new products and do work to keep the ones that we have. It's a first-year project. He talked about Boatritis. We're also concerned about Mummyberry because we're pretty much mostly using the triazole or group 3 fungicides. Indar, Orbit, Proline, and Quash are all pretty much they're very similar types of product. Mummyberry has developed resistance to other fungicides, and it's not good for us to be over-relying on one mode of action. We've already talked about Boatritis. I'm not going to make a case that we need to be doing something to look for some new products on Boatritis. We're losing our ability to control Boatritis, and it's got to what we're calling an emergency situation. More on that at the end of my talk. So the Blueberry Commission funded a project. I did it with my partner, Tom Walters. Tom, are you still here? Okay, still here. He's bailing out here shortly. He did a lot of the work, and I get to get up here and do the fun part of this. We had a project in Skagit County, 5-year-old field. It was RECA, previously organically managed, so we have good disease pressure. But one thing that's very important, these presentations are on completely susceptible populations, so we do not have resistance in this population. So we have some products that probably look very good in our trials, perhaps that may not look as good if you have resistance. We have a good cooperator, ideal location. Unfortunately, due to weather conditions, we had no Boatritis. We put a huge amount of effort into this, did a lot of work, and we didn't get Boatritis. We did have plenty of Mummyberry. We had 19 treatments, 2 of which were untreated checks. Most of the programs we wanted to look at Boatritis and Mummyberry. Some were specific to a certain degree disease. We tried single active ingredients, like a straight Roverall program, to see how that active ingredient worked. We also looked at tank mixes. We looked at rotations and different timings. No resistance. We ended up with data only for Mummyberry. Some striking differences between some treatments range from poor control to nearly perfect control. And some of the results don't quite make sense to me. This is just our first year of work. We need to keep doing this work before we have all the confidence we have before we start making some of these recommendations. We made applications start at March 13th. We made 7 applications. The last one was to May 31st. This is us making an application. So these are the treatments. Indar rotated with pristine. And when you say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, that means there were 6 applications. If you see A, B, C, D, it means there are only the first 4 applications. But we had Orbit rotated with switch, Quash rotated with switch, straight pristine, Roverall 4 times. And the reason we had Roverall 4 times is that's the maximum number of applications you can make with Roverall. We had straight chlorthalonil. Steve Midbow, where are you? What are the names for chlorthalonil that they use in blueberries here? Equus, Echo. I can't hear what you're saying. What? Chloranil. Captain, straight Xyram. This is an organic product, Serenade Optimum. Proline rotated with Serenade, Proline alone. We did a program, Roverall, then followed by Quash, followed by Quash, followed by Pristine, Quash, Roverall, just a number of these programs. We had a second untreated check. We had a Meteor. Meteor is generic Roverall. We had Topsin M, and I can't remember this. Midbow, is Topsin M thiophanate methyl? That's not registered, is it? What's that? Yeah, it's not. Yeah, this is it's really important. This Topsin M is not registered. They're wanting to see if it is effective, and if so, maybe they would register it. And we had a second untreated check. So we generated a lot of data on this. If we look at Mummyberry strikes just on the leaves, we had untreated check. 23% of the leaves that we sampled had strikes on it. This is one untreated check. This is another untreated check. We don't understand why some of these programs didn't work. So these are things that should have worked. Indar, Proline are quite good products. Switch, Pristine are quite good products. One of the problems that we found was, again, because we're working with Tobin's group, they let us know, later on we found out that the ASCO spores from Mummyberry is being released earlier than what we realized. I believe it was 10 or 11 days before our first application, they were finding ascospores. Delphi, wasn't the end of February, 1st of March? First week of March, and our first application was March 13th. Now, we put these applications on, I believe, 2 weeks earlier than we did the year before, because the season was earlier. But we weren't putting it on early enough, which may be a partial explanation. And I'm also wondering if some of the rest of us are not putting our Mummyberry applications on soon enough, because as most of these products are protectant, so you have to have them on before the spores are released. But if you look down at here's Roverall, Quash, and Pristine, gave very good control on strikes against leaves. Roverall alone gave very good good control. Proline, Quash, this is still Iprodina, Roverall. Indar, Pristine as a tank mix was all very good. Quash, Switch. The tank mix worked really, really well. That's just on strikes on leaves. If you look at strikes on flowers, what I really like to see is both the untreated checks up here as being the worst. But again, this Roverall, Quash, Pristine, Roverall. The A, B, C, D applications are the ones that are most important for Mummyberry. So these Quash rotated with switch, Orbit rotated with switch, Quash tank mix with Topsin, followed by Meteor, which is Iprodine work, Proline work, Indar with Pristine. Those products all were the best when it comes to flowers. This is percent infected fruit on the plant, which turns out to be perhaps the poorest thing to evaluate, because when Mummyberries affect the fruit drops off. And so a lot of the infected fruit is not on the plant, but when you see the untreated check up here, that's good. When you look at things that have the least amount, Roverall, Quash, Pristine, Quash rotated with switch, Proline, Quash, followed by Iprodine or you got straight roverall. What's interesting here, I never thought of roverall, which is meteor iprodione, as being a mummyberry material. But in our results, this is a product that seemed to have activity. Again, 1 year of data. I wouldn't recommend using this product without more data. I saw Tom Peerbolt just look at me quizzically about roverall with mummyberry. But all of these products, just so you know, there's no significant difference between all these products. Statistically, all these products work at least % of infected fruit on the plant. Old Tom Walters got on his knees and looked at % infected fruit on the ground, and the things that work the best, again, roverall, quash, pristine, proline, straight roverall, orbit with switch, proline, quash, meteor, indar, pristine, straight pristine, quash, rotated with switch. So we have a number of products that work, including we had a number of, what we took away from this is there are a number of products in this trial that were not in group 3 that had activity against mummyberry. And we had fairly decent mummyberry pressure. Tom, would you agree with that? Great mummyberry pressure, he said. So we think that there is things beyond group 3 fungicides that we can be using. Again, 1 year of data, I don't want to be having people change their spray patterns based on this. We like to have a second year of data. I'm switching to Boatritis. Now, this is from Mount Vernon. This place that we were at was just a few miles southwest of Mount Vernon, straight south of the research station. And I just want to point out, this is a temperature for May through July for the previous 5 years. This is a temperature for 2015. I'm looking for this slide. This isn't a very good slide. It really shouldn't be a line here, but it's a ½ inch of rain in May of this year collectively, and about a ½ inch of rain in June. The 5-year average before, if you put May and June together, was over 4 inches. So we had about 20%, turns out 20% of the rain that we normally have this year in the Mount Vernon area. Unlike many of you, I was crushed by the lack of disease pressure. We had no botrytis. We looked at thousands and thousands and thousands of berries. And Tom, did you ever find one? Did you find one berry with botrytis? And blueberries in this trial? We did not find any, but we did all this work. We had a great set of treatments, and we got nothing. However, if you were in one of my talks yesterday, I talked about this yesterday. We did do a trial on Blackberry. I'll make it very relevant very quickly. We did a trial on Blackberry near Mount Vernon, near Burlington, if that narrows it into where we did it. Blackberry goes later in the season. We had fruit on when we, again, I think it was 6 applications. It cooled off. We got some rain, and we got botrytis. These are the fingers of someone who picks blackberries for our yield data. There's a product called Kinja. This is what Kinja looked like. This is what the Untreated Check looks like. And here is just a slide of a trial that we did for a company called ISK Biosciences. There's Kinja high rate, Kinja high rate with surfactant, Kinja to low rate, Kinja with surfactant. What I want to point out, Untreated Check, 16% of the berries were infected. And this is a field, this is one of the fields that you saw that Tobin had on here, where he looked at disease pressure, and it has resistance to switch and pristine in this field. And if you look at pristine, a very high pristine resistance, and 15.3 is pretty close to 16.3. Switch, it had partial resistance to switch and it showed up, but there was significantly better control with the Kinja treatments. As a result of this, we're pursuing a Section 18 for Kinja for blueberries, also for red raspberries and blackberries. And I want to point out Chris Gee. So Chris Gee, raise your hand here. Chris Gee is a product manager from ISK. He flew out from Kansas City, come to this meeting. He's got they've got Kinja. They're licensing it to Summit Ag, who are distributing it through Wilbur Ellis and Helena, who are sending it to co-ops and all the other folks. So this is a new product, and this one will act against pristine, switch, and elevate resistant botrytis. So it does not have cross resistance. That's the good news. The not so good news, it's got MRLs for Canada. Japanese MRL is pending, and we might get it for the 2016 season, but maybe not. So that's we don't have MRLs for a lot of our key markets. It has no other MRLs at this time. If you use it and there's potential for export, you got to use it early. Do not use it post-bloom if you might export outside of North America. Doesn't matter about Mexico. It doesn't matter about Canada or the United States, but it has a potential for residues. However, I'll also tell you this. I doubt countries are going to be looking for it because it's not registered anywhere. It's not on anybody's radar screen, so they're probably not testing for it. Not that I would ever suggest anything by that. I will tell you this. When it does get registered, it's going to have a 0-day PHI and a 1 part per million MRL. You told me yesterday one. Okay, 4 parts per million. But if it's got 4 parts per million at a 0-day PHI, it probably breaks down relatively quickly. Do you know much about that? About the ecotox, Chris?
It is
Relatively what? Yeah, once you run up there with him, say it again.
It breaks down pretty quickly.
All right.
Do you need a number?
Not that we're suggesting anything. But here's some examples of what a high-quality Mummyberry botrytis program might look like. I've got 7 applications here. I don't know about my timing. I was talking to some people that are a little bit more closer on the spraying on this. 7 applications is a full-blown Mummyberry botrytis program. I only have 1 post-bloom. They were suggesting that this might be spaced in such a way that you might should have a second one post-bloom. And this assumes low-level resistance to pristine, switch, and elevate. But you would go something like Corthalno, Captan, or Zyram, followed by Indar or Quash, followed by Proline plus Zyram, followed by Captan plus Switch or Captan plus Zyram. Some kind of group 11, so this might be a pristine or like an azoxystrobin or a pristine. You could do an Abound plus a Captan, followed by an Elevate. Now, if you happen to have pristine resistance or switch resistance or elevate resistance, you would pull that out of this and switch it with one of these other products. So if you had an elevate resistance in your field, you might put a switch here. If you had switch resistance, you might put a pristine here. We're going to get a Section 18 for Kinja. And so in that case, what you might do is you might put in 2 Kinja applications, but you do not want to use it post-bloom. You use it late bloom or mid to late bloom, and you wouldn't have residue on your fruit. This would be just fine to use if there's no fruit present. Again, this assumes minimal pristine, switch, or elevate resistance. If you have resistance to one of these 3, and let me tell you how you know if you have pristine, switch, or elevate resistance. You could have Tobin's group come out and sample it if it fits in with a research program, or you could say, have I used a lot of pristine? Yes, I have. I've got resistance. Have I used a lot of elevate? Yes. Well, that means you have elevate resistance. If you use any one of these products for botrytis for, I'm going to say 3 years or more, more than once a year for 3 years, you probably have resistance now. So you're going to have to shake it up a little bit, shake up your lineup. But if you have pristine, if you use a lot of pristine, don't use pristine. switch out with switch or with elevate. If you use a lot of elevate, you can switch to pristine or switch. If you've really poured on all three of them, well, you got a problem, and you're probably going to have to use a little bit more Kinja. All right, I got plenty of time for questions. Steve Midbow, send a microphone over to Steve. I want to hear some Steve comment on this. He's the guy with his head down. What do you got?
We got to have MRLs. Told you that before.
Well, we're not going to have MRLs. So that's the best we can do. You can go to Canada, you can go to the United States, you can go to Mexico.
What's Canada's MRL?
Canada's the same as ours. Is that correct?
4?
Canada is the same as ours.
4?
If four's our MRL. Okay, he's going to look again, but whatever ours is, Canada's is.
And I don't think they like Iprodione up in Canada. So this would be a fit for that position. Dave, is that right? I saw you over there. Where'd he go? Is that right?
What,
No Iprodione in Canada?
What's your appetite for Iprodione or Roverol residues?
Roverol's not registered in Canada. No, we can't.
Is there no MRL?
I don't know about the
On Blueberry.
Well, you could use it. You'd have to use it. Then you'd have to use it pre-bloom. No, you could use it during bloom. You couldn't use it post-bloom.
There would be your fit.
One thing somebody was telling me is some of these gentlemen standing up in the southwest corner over there, not wanting to point out anybody, well, they were telling us that they have found that Roverol sticks around a long time, and that if you're using Roverol when there's fruit on, you're liable to have Roverol residues. So if you're shipping to Canada, then you probably shouldn't be using Roverol, Iprodione, or Meteor post-bloom.
What's the Kinja registration in Canada? Do you know? Is it going to be
The
registered?
Kinja is registered, and it has the same MRL as the United States.
Okay, so Alan, I just looked up. We're going to be just below 4.
You're going to be what?
Just below 4 for ppm.
You know,
For-
that's the
for
third answer you've given me in 24
Bushberry.
hours. Are you sure? Is that your final
This
answer?
is a fluid situation.
All right. Is it going to stop being fluid? Are you sure on 3 point something?
Yes.
What about Canada?
It should be the same.
Okay, it's registered in Canada. Is registered in Canada apparently before here?
Yeah, Canada, we were registered last January. We got our U.S. registration in July in the U.S.
Okay, you don't hear that very often. Canada got it before
Alan,
us.
I think it's only registered on low bush.
High bush. High bush
are you
only,
sure?
correct?
No, right now
Oh.
we have a low bush registration,
Oh,
not on high bush.
1307G. We are putting high bush and caneberries on our next submission, which has just gone in, so we should have it in a year on for a section 24
Okay, it's
or a
registered.
section 3 rather.
It's registered on Canada on what?
Strawberry and low bush, 1307G and on grapes.
Okay, so it's registered in Canada on strawberries and low bush blueberries.
Yes.
You do not have an MRL for Canada, or you do have an MRL for Canada?
Which crop are we talking
Blueberries,
about
high bush
now?
blueberries.
High bush, that will be on our next label, will be the
So you
MRL.
don't have an MRL for Canada.
My understanding is that the section 18, we will be able to rely on our other MRLs.
For the United States, you'll be able to do that, but our Section 18 does not apply in Canada. Now the question is, do you have an MRL for high bush for Canada?
That I do not know.
All right. You won't be able to use this product post-bloom, but there's no way you should have residue for Kinja with its residue decline curve if you use it during bloom, because there's no fruit. What's that? All right. So what else? Give me another question. Okay. Will you repeat that?
Okay. Could you include Kinja in any degradation curves?
Okay, the degradation, the residue decline curve research we've done was on insecticides. There is a proposal to the Blueberry Commission to do this for fungicides, and most certainly in the proposal, isofetamide or Kinja is in that proposal. Of course we would do that.
The other question is, what the heck's going on with Roverall and Mummyberry? That doesn't make much sense.
Why does it not make much sense?
Common wisdom, I guess, or
What-
common thoughts, not wisdom.
You know,
But, that would be great. I hope that holds up.
I will just say that when the pointy-headed people in the blueberry industry, when we kind of have this disease working group where we talk about these kind of things, and we designed this project, and Roverall, Iprodion, Meteor was not something that was part of it because nobody was thinking about this product for Mummyberry. Two separate companies, FMC, which has Roverall, and UPI, which has Meteor, both said, we think this product has activity against Mummyberry. Both of them independently came to me and said, I will pay you to test it. And I said, I will take your money. And so we tested it. That's the results we got. We need more, what every researcher says, more research is needed. Just give me some more money.
Alan, I'd make one statement with overall, if history repeats itself, 15 years ago, we used to do 4 apps of Iprodion.
On blueberries or raspberries?
Raspberries.
Raspberries.
Botrytis in general.
What's that?
Botrytis in general, let's put it that way.
Okay, against botrytis. Okay.
And it became 100% resistant.
Okay, but he's talking about Roverall for Mummyberry.
I realize that, but over applications of a product like that 4 times, I don't think, the only reason it works now is I think we didn't use it for 15 years and we only try and use it once.
Okay, the reason that we did it for 4 years was to find out whether that molecule worked. It's proof of concept. We would never recommend using it 4 times. We might stick it in there once. But if we use Roverall and rotated with some other products, the question is, did it work because of other products or because of the Roverall? So we did a straight Roverall program just to see whether it would work. Now, the tricky thing is Boatritis developed resistance to Roverall in raspberries. I don't know if it did it in blueberries, but I guarantee you it will in blueberries if we use it a lot. But if we use it for Mummyberry, then later on we use it for Boatritis, that will just double the speed that resistance will develop. So we've got to think with every product we have, like Kinja. Kinja is hopefully could save us, particularly if we get the MRLs. But we will blow through Kinja like we've blown through everything else, unless every product we think of, we need to think of a product as something as a natural resource that has to be conserved and has to be protected. And so when we get a new product, we can't do Kinja. We've got to use it sparingly and carefully and in rotation. The label is going to say 2 applications, then you have to rotate, right? So that's their resistance management. But if we have a 6 application program, we probably don't want to use Kinja more than twice if we can, because we will get resistance to it. Because actually it is relatively closely related to boscalid. It works on boscalid resistant Boatritis, but I will bet in less than 10 years we'll have resistance to it, particularly if it's really good. So we have to, anytime we need to be tank mixing and we need to be rotating with different modes of action. All right, I got in the back.
Where are we at as far as registration for Kinja? We're hoping to get a Section 18.
Okay.
Is that what I understood?
Okay. I'm going to a big, long meeting in Michigan. I'm going to have some free time. My goal is to submit the Section 18 next week to Department of Agriculture. 90 days, we should have it. So January, February, March. We should have it in March. Now, that's a Section 18. What do you have to say about when do you expect the registration? For blue. high bush and caneberries in 2017, but he doesn't know when in 2017. Or
We expect 14 months. The second that registration has been submitted, so we expect the end of calendar year 2016 to have the registration, so available for 2017 growing season. That's the expectation.
That's what we hope.
Yes.
And okay, time for one last question. All right, I'm going to turn this back over to a real plant pathologist for the next presentation.